Hey there, I'm Sarah McLaughlin. Thanks for joining me on the Chaos to Calm podcast, a podcast designed for women over 40 who think that changing hormones might be messing with their mood, metabolism, and energy, and want to change that in a healthy, sustainable, and permanent way. Each episode will explore topics related to health and wellness for women in their 40s, like what the heck is happening to your hormones, what to do about it with nutrition, lifestyle, and stress management, and inspiring conversations with guests sharing their insights and tips on how to live your best life in your 40s and beyond. So if you're feeling like you're in the midst of a hormonal storm and don't want perimenopause to be horrific, then join me on Chaos to Calm as I share with you how to make it to menopause without it wrecking your relationships and life. Hello and welcome to this inaugural episode of the Chaos to Calm podcast. I'm Sarah McLaughlin, the Perimenopause Naturopath. I'm so excited to be joining you today and in all the future episodes that I have planned for you, where we are going to smash through the myths that perimenopause has to be horrific, because it doesn't. It's common, but it doesn't have to be your normal. And we'll be talking all about how to master the chaos that can come up in your 40s and beyond as you start moving through perimenopause. And the big things that I see in my clinical practice and in my personal experience of perimenopause is that your mood, your metabolism, your energy, your digestion, all can take massive hits in this time period. So I want to teach you all about how to master that chaos so that you can feel calmer, more in control of what's going on in your body, and really comfortable within yourself and your body. Really, I want you to live your best life in your 40s, because perimenopause is a time of transformation. And it doesn't have to be a horrible time. And that's something I'm really passionate about and love talking about. And that is what we're going to cover a lot of in the Chaos to Calm podcast. Today, episode number 1, so exciting. We are going to be discussing my perimenopause journey and how that has spurred me into becoming the Perimenopause Naturopath. So I guess a bit of background might be important here. I am a later to life naturopath and metabolic balance practitioner. I started studying naturopathy when I had 2 kids. I have 4 kids now. And I started studying because I had, simply a life-changing experience with one of my kids and a constant issue that they kept having as a young child. Been to lots of doctors, just got lots of creams and stuff that didn't really work, antibiotics, that kind of thing. One trip to the naturopath, no worries, seen this before. Just cut out dairy or switch over to goat products is what we did. No more. It was gone. The problem was resolved instantly. And I thought how amazing that some changes to food, simple changes to food, can really change how you feel and how you move through life. And so I was like, wow, I want to learn more about that. And I want to help people learn how food can really impact how they feel. I want to teach people how to eat. So off I went to uni to become a naturopath. It's a 4-year full-time degree. So as a mum, that wasn't really an opportunity for me there. I did it part-time and it took me a long time. Invested a lot of time and energy in it, often breastfeeding, holding a baby, breastfeeding in one hand and typing one-handed with the other to do my assignments, reading, scientific journals and textbooks while I was feeding my kids to sleep, because during that study period I went from 2 children to 4 children. And we also had a really significant life event happen in that time period as well, which took a lot for us to recover from as a family, but had a really massive toll on me in terms of very traumatic and very, very stressful for a long period of time, as well as growing 2 humans and breastfeeding them to full term as well. So keep that in mind, because that actually forms part of my story. And I want to talk to you today about perimenopause and how my experience has been. And, at this time of recording, I am on day 354 of my cycle. So I'm like literally less than 2 weeks away from being confirmed as menopause or postmenopausal. But I'm not going to talk too much about the different phases of perimenopause and into menopause today. That's a whole nother podcast in and of itself. So maybe let's start at the very beginning. A very good place to start. When did it start for me? When did perimenopause start for me? What's it been like? So at the moment, as I said, I'm in really late perimenopause, almost at menopause, which I'm a little sad about because I would have liked to hold my period for a lot longer. And you guessed it, that's a whole nother podcast in why you want to hang on to your period. So stay tuned for that into the future. But for now, what I am at is very late stage in perimenopause. So when did it start for me? Well, that's difficult to say because I think it started around just after 40 into 41, which is really not uncommon. Those changes that start to come, the very early perimenopause can definitely start in that time period. Mid-30s is not even too young. What I did find though, when I presented to my GP for testing, because I was exhausted, and that would be one of the very early signs of perimenopause there for me. I was still breastfeeding though, so it was kind of confusing about why my hormones or why my cycle, or my cycle wasn't changing. It was still regular and the same, but I was getting more PMS, which is again really common early perimenopause. So my GP did some blood tests and did hormone testing, and it showed I had low estrogen. She didn't really say anything about it, though she was a bit confused by it because I was only 41 and breastfeeding, so I guess it was outside of what she thought would be normal for perimenopause. At 42, I had really sudden weight gain, and stress and cortisol was definitely a trigger for that as well. But that reduced stress resilience because of my changing hormones in perimenopause definitely had a play into that. Around 43, I started to get heavier periods and shorter cycles. This is something I see a lot with my clients, and my irritation and brain fog was like next level at that time. Really long cycles started for me around the age of 44, which was in the start of 2019 for me. So that's been my progression since 2019 at the time of recording this in 2023. I'm still having long cycles, really long cycles right now. And maybe I'll have another period and reset myself there to wait for another 12 months before I can be declared in menopause. So I've had lots of the really common perimenopause symptoms and have not necessarily accepted them as my normal. Certainly around July 2020, I got sick of feeling like an angry, grumpy, exhausted, blurg version of myself. I really did. And that was when I started to change things up and really got into diving deep into personalized nutrition and the benefit that can bring to us. But I will talk a bit more about that later. So let's have a chat about perimenopause and, for me, how it shone a light on my nurture points, or I guess genetic weaknesses or tendencies to develop a dysfunction in. Perimenopause really shines a light on your body's weak points or nurture points there, or maybe what is already dysfunctional. So for me, that dysfunction was allergies. As a kid, I had asthma, eczema. I developed psoriasis, which is an autoimmune condition, in my late teens. And I really got that perfect storm in my 40s. I had the hormone change, which is leaves us quite vulnerable to stuff happening in our body or dysfunction developing, alongside of chronic high-level stress and emotional stress and physical stress of having 4 pregnancies and breastfeeding over a decade there. So for me, that manifested as some new allergies. I became a celiac. I have some totally nuts allergies like mint. It's such an annoying allergy. But anyway, like I was saying, perimenopause really shines that light. So if you're not in perimenopause, you have the perfect opportunity to get yourself into a great state of health before those hormone changes come through and really shine a light on those areas in your body that are more susceptible to developing disease or dysfunction. If you already are experiencing the hormone changes, it's never too late. Just remember that. You can always do something, and your body, you will benefit from whatever you can and do at that time to get yourself in your best state of health. For me, that was a massive part of my early perimenopause, was just a complete wee out by my body, and 4 or 5 different allergies developed alongside of celiacs there as well. When exactly that was is really difficult to tell, because I was feeling exhausted, had massive chronic stress and trauma in there as well. So it wasn't really until probably 41 or 42 that all of those allergies were diagnosed, and we could see what had happened and how that had sort of come about in there. If you'd like to know more about this episode and my perimenopause journey, you can find the show notes and so much more at www.chaos2calmpodcast.com. So through all that time period, in my 40s, I'm still in my 40s actually, I'm 48 now, but in my early 40s there, I had also some sudden weight gain. So I gained about 20 kilos in a 6 to 12 month period from not doing anything different. At the time I was eating more of a low carb style there, and I tried keto after that to try and get rid of that weight. And I hate calorie counting, but tried that. Tried increasing my exercise and flogging myself on the bike and in other exercise classes there as well. Nothing was working. Herbs, nutrients, soothing my nervous system, trying to reduce my stress load, which is 4 kids and running my own business, and my husband's self-employed too. That's pretty hard to do. So I started to learn more about personalized nutrition and metabolic balance, and that really was a game changer for me. I also dove deep into hormones and perimenopause and just what goes on in that phase, because as I found asking around or seeing other health professionals, not many people were talking about perimenopause itself. So this was really how I came to be the perimenopause naturopath. I had this deep immersion in the phase. I was experiencing what many women that I know and talk to and who were experiencing problems like me. And I just got really sick of hearing about how horrific perimenopause or menopause was. I didn't want that for me. I didn't want that for the women that I work with as well. I really want to change that narrative. I wanted to change it. I'm work now these days. I'm really passionate about changing that. Because I just found, many of my clients tell me as well, no one was really talking about it. It was something like hush-hush and almost something to be ashamed of. And I guess this is no different to our menstrual cycle right through our lives as well, where, the way that we approach that when we were teens, it's a little different, I think, for our children, and certainly for my daughters. I'm working to change that narrative for them. But it was something seen as dirty or shameful, which is really sad, because it's actually quite a superpower to be able to do what our bodies do and then grow a human and nourish that human with our body and then our breast milk. It's amazing. It's so sad that it's made to be shameful. So I really dove deep. I love going deep into things and learning more about them. And how we can support the body and smooth the fluctuations. So I don't necessarily think that we are trying to balance our hormones in this phase. There is a natural decline to them. We really just want to smooth out the fluctuations that can come, especially with estrogen, which really can create a lot of mischief in the body through our menstrual, reproductive life and menstrual cycle time as well. So yeah, that's how I became the perimenopause naturopath. I just got so into it. I found what had worked for me and started using that with my clients and noticing that they were feeling better and less PMS, less angry, less exhausted. And, you know, for those that were later on in the journey, less sweats and flushes. It's like sorcery. It's so good to be able to help them feel great, because for myself, I would say this is the best phase of my life. My kids are getting a little bit older. I'm independent from them. They don't need me so much. I've got more time to look after myself and think about what I want moving into the next phase of life, where I'm not just someone's mum or just someone's wife, or how do I want this next bit of my life to be? What are the things I still haven't ticked off my bucket list that I want to do? I wonder what the things are that you want to do. Like, what do you imagine for yourself in the next phase of life? And I want to be in my best state of health for that. I feel like I am. I actually feel, you know, when I first got on top of my health, I felt better than I had in like 20 years. And a lot of my clients tell me that too. I just had one today tell me, I haven't felt this great in years. So it's so exciting when that happens for you. And, you know, humans, we live for a longer time now. And that is great, except that the last 15 years or 20 years of your life, it can be not a great quality. So in this stage of life, in perimenopause, we are really vulnerable because of all the hormone changes that go on. And they leave us susceptible to develop chronic diseases or dysfunction. So it's a really ideal time to think about and act and do things to help improve your health. And a massive way that we can do this is the food that we eat and the things that we do day in, day out, those little habits and behaviours. And that is what I focus on for me and focus on with my clients as well. And helping them find the foods that work really well to help them get in that best state of health, get their cells in a great state of health, to reduce that susceptibility to developing disease or dysfunction, but also making sure that they can be active and feel great in their, you know, through their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s and beyond. Be active, be able to enjoy your retirement and go travel and take the hikes and do the long walks on the beach and try new hobbies and things. I mean, one of the first things I did after mastering my health and really getting myself into great physical health was take up silks, a circus class, and climbing to the top of that silk was so exhilarating and amazing. And to do that at the age of 47 felt really great, you know, because people would tell me, oh, it's great you can do that at your age. Eye roll. But it is, sadly, I guess not the norm in that. So it's not common for that to happen. But I wanted those sort of things to become more common for other women in their 40s. And, you know, we look at other cultures and the way that women are treated in perimenopause and menopause and revered for the wisdom and their experience that they bring and can share with the younger generation. Like Japan is one. They just don't have the perimenopause symptoms like we do in our Western culture or in Australia and other countries like us, because they don't get told that menopause or perimenopause is horrific. It's not the end. It's the beginning. It's the second spring is how they refer to it in China. And I think that's so beautiful. And that's what I'm looking to create for me, is that second spring, like a rebirth, and I'm moving into that next phase and expanding and exploring all the wonderful things that are on offer to me. So that brings me to the end of this episode. Thank you so much for joining me for this inaugural episode of the Chaos to Calm podcast. And I hope that hearing my perimenopause story has been beneficial to you, and you're realizing that you aren't alone in feeling like once you turn 40, things got turned upside down, or maybe you're like a snow globe and you've been shaken up and put back down to settle on your own. And if you enjoy the show, please do come and join the conversation in the show's Facebook group, which is the Chaos to Calm community. Until next time, I am Sarah, the Perimenopause Naturopath, and please don't forget, perimenopause does not have to be horrific. It's really common for women over 40 to experience the chaos of changing hormones, mood, metabolism, and energy. But I hope you know now that common doesn't have to equal normal for you or them. You can help others understand they aren't alone in feeling this way, and that perimenopause doesn't have to be horrific by subscribing, leaving a review, and sharing this podcast with other women in their 40s and beyond. Thanks so much for listening and sharing your time with me today in this Chaos to Calm conversation.